You have the navigation buttons, making it easy for you to easily switch between the overview page, the products page, or the supplier page. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to learn how to create this dashboard using Power BI. The dashboard is built on a supply chain data set, providing insights into revenue, cost, profit margin, stock levels, and more. Now let's get started. This dashboard consists of 3 pages. We have the overview page, which displays key metrics such as the total revenue, the total product sold, the cost, profit margin, and so on. Then we have the products page, which provides insights into order quantity, stock levels, manufacturing lead time versus normal lead time, the profit margin distribution by product type, and so on. And finally, we have the supplier page, which shows transportation mode distribution, the cost breakdown per supplier, stock levels, and the relationship between profit margin and the defect rate. So each page can be filtered by SKU or the supplier name. To ensure a modern and polished look, we're going to be designing a gradient-based background in PowerPoint, which is going to have abstract elements for depth and contrast. So I have PowerPoint open with a blank slide. I'm going to start with removing all the text boxes. So let's delete those. We won't be needing them for the design. Now go to the Design tab, Format Background. We're going to be using Gradient Fill like I said earlier. So let's have the option for Gradient Fill selected. And if I scroll down to the bottom, that's to the gradient top. We're going to make this first gradient top this color. Select on the other gradient top and give it this fill color. Yes, so that's what we have. You can decide to set the gradient direction to diagonal or top to bottom for depth, depending on what you want. But I'm going to go with this. To avoid a flat design, we're going to add abstract shapes for visual interest. So click on the Insert tab, Shapes, and select Rectangle Shape. So I'll have that drawn over the slide, give it no fill, no shape outline, and have it sent to the back. Now I'm going to add another shape, which is going to be the oval shape this time, and draw that on this corner. Let's have that expanded a bit. We're also going to give that a gradient fill. So right on the Design tab, click on the Format Background, make it a gradient fill like we did to the board, but have the transparency increased to maybe 45, so it blends subtly with the background. I'm going to have the outline removed, so go to Shape Format and make sure it has no outline. I'm going to bring this shape forward, so right click on the shape and bring forward. And now select all the shapes, go to the Shape Format tab, and let's have that intersected like so. You can go ahead to have the shape adjusted a bit so it doesn't take over the whole dashboard. Let's have this duplicated by simply copying and pasting and bring it to the other corner. But this time I'm going to have that rotated so it fits the other corner and then adjust as required. We're going to be adding a menu bar. But to differentiate the menu bar from the main area, we're going to insert a rounded rectangle. So click on the Insert tab, Shape, and the rounded rectangle. So I'm going to draw that along the left-hand side of the slide. Remove the fill and give it an outline that sort of match with the rest of the background. To create an interactive fill, I'm going to be inserting iconographies that depict supply chain, like trucks, warehouses, and shipping boxes. And we're going to be using that using the icons from PowerPoint. So click on the Insert tab again, Icons, and I'm going to search for trucks. Let's select this. After inserted, we are also going to search for warehouses and shipping box. So icon, shipping boxes. We go with this. and also warehouses. This one. We'll have the fill colors of that changed to white. Have the transparency increased to 10 or 15. And I'm going to have them placed all around the dashboard like so. To enhance clarity, let's introduce a subtle divider. To insert a thin triangle along the right edge of the menu bar. We'll have the color set to light gray and adjust the transparency to 50%. I'm quite satisfied with the layout of the background. So let's select all the elements by clicking Select All, right click, Group, and select Group. And then we're going to have this file saved as SVG format to maintain quality. Now that we have our background ready, let's move over to Power BI and follow these steps. So I'm going to have Power BI opened and navigate to the Format pane. Then click on Canvas Background. Browse for the filed SVG file and select it. And finally, have the transparency adjusted to 0 so that the background is fully visible, like so. To bring our data set into Power BI, follow these steps. Go to Get Data, Text or CSV, and select your supply chain dataset. Once loaded, Power BI will give you a preview of the data. We need to check that the column headers are promoted correctly and data types are properly set. So if you need to make some adjustments, you need to click on the Transform Data. So I'm going to click on that. And on the right here, you have the Applied step. You can see that the headers have been correctly promoted and the data types has been changed as needed. Before proceeding, let's rename necessary columns for better clarity. For example, I'm going to have revenue generated renamed to just revenue. So double click on that and have it renamed to revenue. And I'm going to have some long column names shortened, like changing manufacturing lead time to MFG lead time. And if you look to the right here, you see what we did being applied. It's been recorded. We have some columns renamed. Click Close and Apply to load the data into Power BI. And we have our data loaded into Power BI with all the columns listed. Now let's create some calculated columns to enhance our data set. Custom columns helps us generate new values based on existing ones. And we create them to calculate additional metrics that are not available directly in our data set. It's also useful to ensure that calculations are available for measures. So to do that, go to the Modeling tab, select the option to create DAX expressions. We're going to be creating two columns, the profit margin column and the profit margin percentage column. The profit margin column will be derived out by subtracting all the cost from our revenue. So I'm going to go ahead and enter the formula. Profit margin column is what we're trying to calculate. So I'm going to type profit margin equals our revenue, which you can pick from here. So we are picking our revenue column from the supply chain data set. So click on that. And we want to subtract all the cost, starting from the manufacturing cost. From the supply chain data set, that's our data set. And we also have the normal cost, which is just cost. So let's add that to the list of cost. We have that listed as an option here from the supply chain database. So select that. And finally, we have another cost, which is the shipping cost. So I'll start typing that and have it selected from the option below. So what I've done right now is to list out all the costs we have in our data set to have that deducted from our revenue in order to arrive at the profit margin. So let's have the total cost all embraced with a bracket. And press the check button to have the measure committed. So if you look to the right here, you can see that we have a new column created for us, the profit margin column. Now let's create the profit margin percentage. So we're going to go over the step again, go to the Modeling tab, click on the option to create a new DAX measure. This time we are creating profit margin percentage. So I'm going to type that in. And the formula for that is profit margin divided by revenue. So the profit margin we just calculated, I'm going to have that typed in, select that from the option, and have that divided by her revenue. So revenue. Click on the check button to have that committed, and then we have that listed on the right here as a column. Now we need to create some measures for analysis. Measures help us perform calculations dynamically based on user interactions. We create them for aggregating data efficiently, e.g. sum, average, or percentage. It's also useful for displaying meaningful metrics in visualizations. And finally, it reduces dataset size by performing calculations on demand rather than storing extra columns. So we're going to be calculating a number of measures. We will start with total revenue. So to do that, go to the modeling tab again, but this time we're going to select this option, which is to write DAX expression that calculates a value from your data. The first measure we are creating is the total revenue, which adds up all revenue values. So for that, I'm going to type total revenue in as the title of the measure, type in the sum function, and select the revenue column from the supply chain dataset. Click on the check button to have that committed. And you can see on the right here that we have it listed as a measure, total revenue. So the next one will be total product sold to count the total sold products. So for that, I will start by typing total product sold as the title equals the sum function and have the number of products sold column selected. Click on the check mark to have that committed, and we should have that listed here. Next, we're going to calculate the total cost measure, which sums up all the cost. So I'm going to right click on any of the measures we created earlier and click new measure. Have this DAX expression imputed to calculate total cost. So this has listed all the costs we have on our data set. We have the manufacturing cost, we have the cost, which is the normal cost, and the shipping cost. So if you go quickly to the table view, you see that that's the exact cost we have. We have the shipping cost, we have the manufacturing cost, and cost itself. So going back to the report view, click on the total cost measure and confirm that it's the same as what we have on our data set. The next measure to create is other quantity. So click on new measure. For other quantity is going to be other quantity as the title equals the sum function, and scroll down to look for the other quantity column from the supply chain data set, which is right here. So select that, click on the check mark to have that committed, and you can see it listed on the right here. The next measure is going to be the average profit margin. So new measure, have average profit margin typed in as the title equals the average function and then the profit margin column from the supply chain data set. Have that committed, and we have that listed on the right as well. And then finally, we're going to create the last measure, which is the defect rate percentage. So click on new measure, and I'm going to have this expression imputed for that. So the title is defect rate percentage, and the expression is the average of the defect rate column in the supply chain data multiplied by 100 to make it a percentage. So have that committed, and we should have it listed on the right like so. Now let's move on to building the overview page in a way that complements the designed background. We will first add cards to show essential metrics like the total revenue, the total product sold, the cost, profit margin, and the stock level. So from the visualization pane, I'm going to select the new card visual and drag it onto the report canvas. Have the card visual set up by assigning them to total revenue. So we have the total revenue somewhere down below. So click on that. We are also going to have the total product sold included, the total cost, the profit margin, and the stock level, which is somewhere here. So let's quickly format the card to make it more presentable. Right now it's formatted to show just 3 measures at the same time. To change that, just go to the format pane. I'm going to have this collapsed. So go to the format pane, Under the Visual tab, click on the drop down for Layout and have the max card shown changed to 5. We're going to format it further to have the font size reduced so it shows the old value. To do that, still under the Visual tab, scroll down to call out values, and have the font size reduced here. I'm going to apply a semi-transparent dark overlay to blend with the background. Select the drop down for the cards, scroll down and have the drop down for background selected. So it's currently set to white. I'm going to have that changed to a new color. So let's give it the color code this. Have the transparency adjusted to somewhere around 40 to 50%. Now we're going to change the font color to maybe white to make it visible. So call out values, have this color changed to white or silver, and we're going to have the same done to the label. So click on the drop down for label, have that color changed to white as well. We're going to have to make that bold because they are the titles. Probably increase the font size a bit like so. So let's just have that placed at the top here. We could do some further formatting. So I'm just going to click on the format option again, go to the General tab, click on the drop down for Effect. Let's see what this would do. Let's have the transparency increased a bit. Yeah, I think I like what this looks like. Yes, so I'm going to maintain this. Let's have the values aligned horizontally to the top, to the middle. I mean, centrally aligned, I meant here, and I think we're good. Let's have shadows enabled to give it depth and contrast. So select the visual, go to the Format pane again, under the General tab, click on the drop down for Effect, and scroll down to Shadow. So let's have that toggled on and have it positioned maybe at the bottom, like so. Now let's insert a donut chart to provide a breakdown of revenue by customer demographics. So I'm going to go back to the visualizations pane and select donut chart. So for this visual, we need the revenue field and the customer demographics. So let's go to the data pane, drag the revenue field into the visual and also customer demographics. To give that a quick formatting, we're going to start off by applying the same formatting we've used for the card. So have the card selected, select on the paintbrush and apply it on the donut chart. So as you can see, this needs further formatting. So after selected, go back to the visualization pane to expand it, click on the format option. Under the visual, we're going to start off with the labels. So click on the drop down for values, have that changed to white, make it bold. Click on the drop down for the slices. Currently these are the color options we have. I could have this changed to that to make it bright. And if we go to the General tab, we have a lot of formatting to do there. First of all, we start off by giving it a title. So turn on the title toggle, click on the drop down, have this renamed to just revenue by customer demographics. So let's remove the sum off, make the text color white as well and make it bold. And that's that for title. Moving on to the effect option. So select the drop down for effect. We're going to leave the background as it is, but have the transparency reduced to 50 so it matches with the card. You could make it go down further to maybe 40. Yes. And still under the General tab, under the effect option, we have the shadow turned on, which is fine. Let's see what we can do under the data format. Nothing really. Header icons, nothing really to do here. So let's go back to the visual option, click on the detail labels, values again, click on the slices, the legends, the text. Yes, we need to make the text of the legends white as well. and make it bold. In terms of the spacing of the slices, we can have that increased as well. Say to maybe this. No, let's have it reduced. So yeah, I think this is good. What else do we need to do? I mean, you have a whole lot of options to do here. You just have to keep playing around with it and get familiar with the options available, the formatting options available. I'm not going to waste much time on this, so I think we should move on. But before we move on, I think we can give it a visual holder. So click on the visual again, go to the format pane, under the general tab, select the drop down for effects. Make sure the visual border button is toggled on. Click on the drop down and let's give it a visual border of, say, maybe this, and have the corners rounded like so. Let's see what it gives. Yeah, I think this is good. Okay, so let's move on. Next, we're going to add a bar chart to show total revenue by product. So right in the visualization pane, select the bar chart option, have that placed down below here. Move this up a bit. And it's going to be used to display revenue by product type. So let's drag revenue from the data field onto the bar chart and product type. So let's look for where the product type is. There you go. I think I'll prefer the stacked bar chart visual. So let's replace that with stacked bar charts, which is this one. Just select it and this looks way better. So to make things quick, as usual, I'm going to start off by applying the formatting options we had applied to the earlier visuals using the paintbrush. So have that applied and can go ahead to have it further formatted. So I'm going to have that place over here. Select the format option and let's have the values formatted. We need to make them white. Scroll down to the x-axis, click on the values and do the same. Make it white and bold. Now the title, we need to make that white as well. Or maybe we don't need the title. Let's have that turned off so we make good use of the space. We need to turn off grid lines. We don't want them. They're not necessary. So let's have it turned off. And now we need to work on the bars. What colors do we want to apply? Let's select the category. So for automotive, we can decide to make that this as well. Select another option, which is electronics this time, and let's give that another color like this. And then lastly, for cosmetics, we're going to have that replaced with maybe this. And we can also have the title renamed to just revenue by product type. So under the general tab, click on the drop down for title and have this sum of removed from the title, just to make things a bit neater. And finally, we will add a table to display supplier names and average profit margin. So back on the visualization pane, let's have the table visual selected, which is right here. Adjust that a bit to fit in the available space. And on the visual, we're going to assign the data field supplier name and the average profit margin. So expand the data field, have the supplier name dragged onto it. We have the supplier name somewhere around here and the average profit margin that was calculated earlier, which is up here. So in the same way, we're going to apply the formatting option from here to the table visual. And then we can have it formatted further by clicking on the visualization pane, the filter, and then starting with the values. We want to make the values bold and have the font size increased, like so. Let's have the table expanded so it fills up the entire visual. So going straight to the column headers, we want to also have the size of that increased. Maybe not so much. Let's have the style presets changed to none. So we have it transparent to match with the entire background. And then we want to scroll down to values, have our text color changed to white, and also the alternate color, we want that white as well. We want to work on the totals, make sure our totals is also changed to white, make it bold. Let's have the total increased like so it stands out. And if you go to the column headers, click on the drop down, make that white as well. I think it's increased enough as it is. And finally, let's work on the padding. So under the general tab, scroll down to the padding option and let's have that increased to the height. This will help us make good use of the space. And we are done with this page. So this page we've just created is the overview page. So I'm going to have the tab renamed to overview. Now we're going to move on to building the product page. To ensure it follows the same seamless design as the overview page, I'm going to go ahead and have this page duplicated and rename it to product. For the product page, the cards will also be useful. But this time, the fields we're going to add to the cards visual will be different from what we currently have. So let's go to the data field and have the current fields we have removed from the card visual. So let's take this off, this and this, and also the total revenue. And have that replaced with the stock levels, the average lead time, the average profit margin, and the manufacturer's lead time. And for the bar chart, we're going to have customer demographics and the revenue replaced with order quantity by product type. So let's have that removed and have it replaced with order quantity by product type. And instead of a bar chart, we're going to be using a scatter plot visual. So let's go to the visualization pane and have this bar chart replaced with the scatter chart. So we're going to use this to visualize the relationship between price and the total product sales. So I'm going to drag the SKU as the value. We want to look at that by price. So let's drag price to the x-axis. And by total product. So let's drag the total product sold to the y-axis. And then I'm going to add a legend for the product type. And this is what it's all going to look like. And finally, for this page, we're going to have the table display SKU, the order quantity, and the profit margin. So I'm going to drag out whatever field we have here currently. Go to the data field and let's have this removed. And assign the data field the SKU, order quantity, and profit margin, like so. And now all of these visuals needs to be renamed. So this will be revenue by product. If you go to the format pane, the general tab, under the title, I'll have this name to renamed to revenue by product. Let's have these columns formatted so it looks more presentable. And we're gonna do that right here, the column headers. We want to have it that way. And our scatter plot graph will be renamed to price and total product sold by SKU and product type. So let's go to the general tab, the drop down for title. We're going to have this renamed to price and total product sold by SKU and product type. And with that, we are done with the product page. And quickly, we're going to move on to the supplier page and adopt the same approach. So I'm going to have this duplicated and have the tab renamed to supplier. We're going to need the Doughnut Chart as well. But instead of what we currently have there as the fields, we're going to have that replaced with cost distribution by transportation mode. So let's remove these two fields select the cost field and the transportation mode. And I'm going to have the title of that renamed to cost by transportation. So we know what information we are getting from this. It's straightforward. That should be by transportation mode. We would have this replaced with a bar chart. So let's select the bar chart. Remove the current fields we have there. So I'm going to drag the supplier name to the y-axis and the total cost to the x-axis. And then we'll have different colors assigned to each supplier. So let's go to the format pane, click on the drop down for bars, and let's assign different colors. For instance, our supplier 1 could be given the color red. We'll give our supplier 2 a yellow, or that, whatever that color is. Supplier 4 can be given this, and then supplier 5, we can make that, can leave that as blue and make supplier 3 black. No, let's keep that. Let's see what we have in more colors. You can use this color code to give that. Let's see what that gives us. Yes, that's a good one. And then for the table, we also need a table on this page. We're going to have the current fields removed, which is the order quantity. We don't want that on this field. We don't want the profit margin. We don't want the SKU. So we're going to have that replaced with supplier name, because this is the supplier's page. So let's have that replaced with supplier's name and the stock level. We want to be able to tell how much stock we have left and what supplier is going to supply it. So I'm going to look for stock level and have that included on the table. Let's adjust the table, so make good use of the space and do a bit of formatting. We're going to add one last chart, which is the scatter chart still. So let's have this adjusted to the side and let's insert a scatter graph again. Adjust the size and bring it to the bottom here. So this is going to be used to analyze the relationship between profit margin and defect rate per supplier. So for that, we're going to drag defect rate to the x-axis. Have that dragged to the x-axis. Have the profit margin dragged to the y-axis. Profit margin to the y-axis. And then drag the supplier name to the legend field. Supplier name, yeah, drag to the legend field. So quickly format that. You want to apply the same format options to make it blend. Yes, and I think the color coding is okay as it is. And with that, we are done with building the visuals for the supplier's page. So now that we have built all the 3 pages of the dashboard, we need to add navigation buttons and slicers to improve usability. The navigator buttons will be added on all pages for seamless navigation between the overview, the products, and the supplier pages. So we're going to start with the supplier page. Go to the Insert tab, click on Add a button, then scroll down to Navigator and select Page Navigator. So let's have that move down here. We're going to have the layout modified to vertical. So go to the Visual tab, scroll down to the grid layout and have this changed to vertical. Let's have that adjusted so it fits the space available. Let's work on the feel of the navigator button. So go to the visual option, scroll down to fill, and let's have the transparency of the fill increased to 100%. We can decide to give it a border. Let's go with this color, give it a shadow, a glow as well. I'll want this state to be over. I'll give my font color for that page white and then you want the font size to be 14 and you want to make it bold. So anytime I hover over each of these ones, it's going to give that formatting effect I applied. For the other pages, we want to give it a feel of black and have the transparency reduced bit, like so. So each time you hover over each one, you're going to get that effect. So I'm going to copy this navigation button and have it pasted on all the other pages. So as you can see, we are currently on the products page, and then each time we select or we hover over the supplier button and the overview button, we have that effect. So let's do the same thing for the overview page. And to make the navigation button work, you need to make sure you always press down on your control button before selecting the page. So for instance, I have my control button pressed down and I'm going to select on the products button to navigate to that page, just like so. If you don't have your control button pressed down, it's not going to work. It has to be pressed down. And then let's have sliders added for filtering. So we're going to add sliders for the SKUs and the supplier name. So going to the visualization tab, I'm going to select slicer. So have one for the SKU. Let's have the SKU dragged in. We'll make that a drop down. So let's select the visualization tab to have it formatted as that. So the slicer setting should be drop down. And we can just apply the same formatting as the rest of the dashboard. Make the text white. To values, font color to be white. Make it bold. We also need to make the slicer header work done. So let's also make that white. Make it bold. Have that adjusted to fit in nicely somewhere. And we're going to have this duplicated by simply copying and pasting so we can use it for the supplier name. So let's remove the SKU and have that replaced with the supplier name, like so. So our dashboard is coming together. Right now we can't see the listed options, so let's work on that. Let's go to the format pane. We're going to give it a background color of white and make the text black. You can also make the text bold. So if you select on the drop down now, you're able to see the options clearly. So I'm going to repeat the same step for the supplier slicer. So let's make the background color white and make the text black. So make it bold. Or we could decide, I think it's going to look more better if it doesn't have a background. So let's go back. Let's go to the values. Make the background no background. For the two, we set to default, and let's have the text. Yeah, I think it's good as it is. We have the text as black. So that way it matches with the whole dashboard. We can make the text maybe silver to make it more clearer. Yeah, let's make it silver. Make it a darker silver. Yeah, so it's good as it is. And the final thing we need to do is to give each page a title. So I'm going to have a text box inserted. We're going to apply the same formatting as this on that. So let's use the format print and give this the name overview page. We want to make the text white, make it bold, have it centrally aligned, increase the font size, and let's give it a border. Let's see if there's a better option in terms of the background. Let's have this reduced a bit. See what, yeah, we want to make it stand out slightly. So let's reduce the transparency a bit more, and I think that looks good. Have that moved to the side like so. Have that copied on the product page. I'm going to have this renamed to products and do this for the supplier page. Have that named to supplier. I also need to remember to move the slicers to the other pages as well. It's going to be the same slicers on all the pages and also on the overview page. And we are done. So this Power BI dashboard is fully interactive, allowing you to explore data dynamically. You have the slicers in place to filter by SKUs and supplier name. Clicking on a product or supplier updates all related visuals in real time. And you have the navigation buttons, making it easy for you to easily switch between the overview page, the products page, or the supplier page. So this interactivity ensures quick insights and better decision making. Congratulations! You've successfully built a Power BI supply chain dashboard. Like, share, and subscribe.